What were we talking about? What were we doing? Oh, yeah.
Chaos.
Okay, chaos. Yeah, it is chaos. It is chaos. Chaos.
This is the AT Banter Podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter. Where the hell's the cowbell?
Oh, that's behind Rob. Guess I didn't set it up.
Wait,
Grab it.
Oh, geez, so much I take back all the
Grab it.
consummate professional.
Grab it.
Holy
Steve's
smokes.
here. We need the cowbell. Oh,
Fortunately, I still got jingle sticks.
it's in a mic. It's on the mic stand. Just grab the mic stand. That's the way it's always been. No, it's always been attached to the mic stand. No, it's true. It's never been attached to the table. Oh my God. Go back to bed.
Is that an option? just to be clear, I'd like to know if that's an option.
Now, where's the stick?
It should be beside Steve or beside you. Yeah, it's the only stick. The other one's been missing for that's been missing for months. You're really observant. Holy cow.
This whole podcast is a disaster today.
Wow.
Cowbell.
There you go.
Nice. Anyways, my name is Rob Minot.
Is it now?
It is. Joining me today, as people may have already noticed, Mr. Steve Barclay is back.
Yay.
IR.
Also with us, Ryan Fleury.
Hi.
And yeah, we're all here. And we're recording a podcast apparently, which is Google reminding us that
That's
that's
amazing.
indeed something like that is happening. It's my phone too. I was going to give you shit for turning off your phone. And there's my phone.
You can give me heck. You can give me heck.
How is everybody doing today?
Good. For a Monday? It's not too bad.
I want a nap.
You always want a nap.
It's true, I do.
Well, we're recording later in the day today.
Yes.
I noticed that which is, I don't know. It'll either be it'll be interesting. I don't know. We're used to mornings, so I don't know. We're going to be more full of energy or less.
Well, most shows going forward are going to be between the 2 and 3 time.
Yeah, I know.
So,
I know. Because of you.
yep.
So thanks a lot for
I
that.
have work-related commitments.
Interesting. A likely story. Hey Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Did you watch that Apple event last week?
I did indeed.
So I want to kind of hear what your take on it is before we get into the main content of our episode, which we should actually mention as well. What are we doing today?
Today we are speaking with Damien Pickering from HIMS.
HIMS.
Guys that make the note takers, low vision aids, and much, much more.
Much more. Cool. That'll be a little later coming up, but right now, yeah, let's talk some Apple. So give me your impression of what you thought of the event.
Well, it was magical. It was amazing.
No, it wasn't. You're lying.
You've been reading the same headlines, have you? Yeah, really when it comes to the iPhones, it was pretty lackluster. It sounds like there's some new designs, but as an upgrade, it doesn't really look like it's worth the investment at this point in time. The item that really stole the show was the Apple Watch. There was no talk at computers or anything.
Yeah.
That's probably going to be at the next show in October. I think it's called Mac World Congress or something. But they have another show. But yeah, the Apple Watch is really the one snagging all the headlines and all the media. Sounded pretty exciting.
Okay, well, give us a rundown on what the Apple Watch. What are the new announcements for the Apple Watch that excited you?
Well, I'm going to toss it back to you because you've got the tab open in Chrome and you can actually look at the new features in the Apple Watch.
Oh, for crying out loud! Well, first of all, before we do that, hold on. So, Steve, what about you? Did you watch any of this?
I did not watch it. I do not care.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, Dr. Seuss.
I'm just saying. I just
Android fanboy.
No, you know what? It reminds me of the whole phone update part of it. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the iPhone maybe 4 to iPhone 5. I mean, that jump wasn't really all that substantial, right? Like I remember when the 5 came out, people were like, "Oh yeah, it's kind of like the 4, a little bit improved. Really, nothing earth-shattering in terms of spec changes or feature changes. It was just, here's this year's new model." I'm kind of getting the same vibe from the phones for this year. I mean, I'm still reeling at the price of the the iPhone X.
Or the Max X or the X Max.
Well, I don't even know what the hell they're called these days. Now they're
There's
just
the
losing
X
me on
Max,
that.
the XS, and the XR. And the X Max, I think Canadian is going to be around $1,300.
these guys are as bad as Jeep.
Yep.
They're like, honestly, you've got the Jeep TJ, you got the Jeep YJ, you got the Jeep
CJ.
JK, you got the CJ, you got the. It's like, for God's sakes, come up with something that's actually going to differentiate these things in people's minds. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, like.
Yeah, it's a lot of the media press I've been reading are a lot of people are saying it's really not worth the upgrade this time. It sounds like Apple's kind of run out of innovation at the current moment in time when it comes to phones anyway. But like we were saying, the Apple Watch is really the one that is getting all the glamour.
Well, to be honest, that's a technology that was really still growing a lot. They were still figuring out stuff that can be done with it, and I think that with these new announcements, they've actually managed to put some features in that could be really, really valuable to people. We were talking a little bit about it before the show. I mean, we could go through the specky specs, but I don't even know if we can bother. But I mean, it looks like there's going to be some new sizes of it.
I like that in the text of this article that we're looking at, it says that you can view stocks and your heart rate. Yeah, my stock's down, my heart rate's up.
Yes, that could be handy.
It's very true. The processor's improved, the battery life has improved. But some of the specific things that they were talking about in terms of features that could be really, really cool. One is the heart monitor. The fact that you can be wearing it and it can constantly monitor your heart and run EKGs and stuff. Could be an incredibly powerful medical device.
Wait, how does a watch do an EKG? Don't you have to have all those little probes attached to you all over the place for an EKG?
Apparently not. This will measure electrical activity of the heartbeat in order to help diagnose heart disease and other conditions.
I think it says like to 98% accurate.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So if you climb a set of stairs and all of a sudden you feel like you're going to have a heart attack, your watch could predict that.
Well, sure. I mean, even if it gives you a 10-minute window in advance warning that you're something screwy with your heart and you're going to have a heart attack, that could be incredibly valuable. So I mean, for me, like that's anyone who's in that age range of the danger of heart attacks. We should all be wearing Apple Watches.
Okay, Siri, what does it mean when my heart monitor goes?
Means your battery's dead, literally.
Okay, EKG and ECGs are the same thing.
Okay, well, see, there you go. So it can absolutely do it.
It doesn't have the probes to do it.
It says right here on this website.
Spurious claims.
I don't know. It got cleared from the FDA, so that's got to mean something.
Yeah.
So and what was that other thing that you were telling me, Ryan?
Fall detection. So if you fall, your watch can detect that you've fallen, and I think it gives you up to a minute to actually, dismiss the alert that you've fallen before it actually sends out a notification to family, friend, or emergency.
So great for the elderly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just don't wear it on Saturday night, Steve. Have it just call the Uber driver. He's gotten into the whiskey again.
Yeah, so the real health benefits to the Apple Watch are really being touted.
Yeah, it really sounds like that's, and it sounds like honestly, even over the course of the event, the Apple Watch is what was the focus.
Yeah, and it's got haptic feedback as well. So if you're wanting your haptics, you'll have your not just vibrations, but voiceover integration, your haptic feedback.
Yeah.
A lot more notification of items.
Yeah. So, I mean, we could really be seeing that, the Apple Watch take off in the next few years as a real useful device.
Yeah. Again, I think the price needs to come down still.
Sure.
How much?
I think it was around $349. I don't know if that's US or Canadian.
It starts at $399. That's
$399 US then.
and the cellular model is $499.
Yeah, so pretty expensive.
So a little bit pricey.
Could be
but
life saving.
Could be life saving. Yeah,
Can't put a price on that.
I might ask for one for Christmas.
Nice.
If you live that long.
Well, exactly. I'm a ticking time bomb.
Then you can do a live demo on AT Banter.
There you go.
Yeah,
But your Android phone won't integrate with your Apple Watch.
that's going to be sad. I'm in the wrong ecosystem for this.
Now you're going to get confused. The gestures don't work. Which device am I using?
Yeah.
Where's our Google Watch?
That's right. Yep. Well,
Yeah, Google.
Google's got
Let's
an
go,
announcement next
Google.
month. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
Not just phones, maybe.
That would be, I mean, honestly, like that is something that they have to be looking at, right?
Well,
You would
they,
think.
Samsung's had their Gear VR, or not VR, but their what is it, the Samsung Gear Watch, or Android's tried a couple different types of watches. I think Pebble was based on Android, the Pebble watch. So it's been a few iterations, but the problem with Google is they throw like 400 things at the wall and see what sticks. Messaging's a good example. They've got Allo, Duo, Hangouts, Messages. Like which messaging client do you use? It's just confusing.
Yeah.
So,
All of them.
all of them. Yeah. So we'll see. Hopefully they're going to announce something.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Ryan.
Actually, you know what?
Steve.
No.
I almost
Hey.
called you Rob.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Ryan.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Steve.
Who we got on this week?
Today we are talking with Vice President of HIMS Inc., Mr. Damien Pickering.
No way.
We are.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
It is cool.
Hello.
Hi, Damien. How are you?
Good. Is that Ryan?
It's Ryan, and joining me in the room I have Mr. Rob Minot.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Rob Minot.
I know. He called me Mister. You must be in a good mood.
And we have the one, the only, Mr. Steve Barclay.
Actually, I'm one of several. I keep spares.
Really well. Hello,
Howdy.
Steve Barclay.
Excellent. Well, hey, so thanks so much for joining us today and chatting with us a bit about HIMS. And I hear there may be like some sort of a newfangled contraption that you guys are
Later.
releasing.
What? We're not allowed to talk about that yet?
No, we
but
can talk about
later.
it during the show, but
He
not
just-
right now.
yeah.
I don't want to lead with that.
Well, okay.
You're so
We
tough.
got to make our audience wait till the end.
There is a newfangled thing that is top secret until we announce it, and it's the worst kept secret of the industry.
That's right. Secret's been out since what, March?
Well, at least officially since the beginning of July, the summer conferences, the ACB
Right.
and FB. But
Well, all right. Well, you know what? Let's why don't we take a step back and why don't, for anybody who's not familiar with HIMS, give us a little overview of the company and what you guys do.
sure.
And who you are. Let's start there. Who the heck are you?
We could start with that. So, hello, I am Damien Pickering. I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing for HIMS Inc. And for those of you who may not be familiar with HIMS Inc., we are a Braille and low vision company. We've had products on the market since 1999. For those of you who may not instantly recognize HIMS Inc., many people do recognize the Braille Sense. So our flagship line of Braille note takers since 1999 has been the Braille Sense line, going back to the original Braille Sense Plus, the Braille Sense U2, and as of recent history, the Braille Sense Polaris, which is our Google certified Android-based Braille note taker that combines a classic note-taker environment with a mainstream device that can search and download apps from the Google Play Store and provide a kind of a more mainstream experience. So it's sort of two device experiences in one. So we're very excited about that and can certainly talk about that. But as I indicated, we also do have low vision video magnification devices from handhelds. Our line is called the Candy 5, so a 5-inch portable handheld video magnifier. We have a classic inline desktop CCTV called the Lifestyle. And then we have a transportable near and distance viewing talking CCTV with full page OCR called the Go Vision Pro. So something kind of a little bit of something for everybody. Our main products, the HIMS Inc. products, are manufactured in South Korea. But then we also distribute third-party products from other parts of the world and other manufacturers. And we are an international global company. But for our purposes today, HIMS Inc. is really the sales and service arm that covers North America. So basically the continental United States and Canada.
Now, was the note taker part of the business sort of the crown jewel in the company? Because it seems like that's where a lot of the focus of HIMS, and that's certainly, from my experience, anyways. Whenever anyone talks about HIMS, they're usually talking about your note takers.
I would say that historically, in fact, that has been the case, and that's why I identified the Braille Sense line as our flagship line. HIMS was really best known for that Braille Sense line. I mean, that's how more people identified it. And when I was, new at HIMS and working a trade show, and I might ask somebody, they'd say, "What booth is this?" And I might say, "Well, we're HIMS Inc. Are you familiar with us?" And, well, I'm not sure. And say, "Well, have you heard of the Braille Sense?" "Oh, yeah." So they would, that's where the light would go on. So my experience was that, HIMS was really known as a one product company, as a note taker company, sort of competitor to the Braille Note, which, is the best known, at the time. And I think a lot of people, weren't even really thinking that, that HumanWare and the Braille Note had competition. Hopefully in the last couple of years, and especially with the Polaris and our venturing into the Google verse and, the Android platform, there is more awareness. There is an increasing sense in the industry that there are alternatives to the Braille Note, which has sort of become the de facto standard in education, as a note taker and so forth. But sort of combined with, people sort of taking a pause at the new direction that the Braille Note Touch took in venturing into that Android system. It really set the stage, I think, for HIMS to come in with a slightly different version of how to tackle that Android world. and really maintain kind of a classic note taker environment. And coupled with that, in an effort to sort of move away from that one product brand identity, we've really put a lot of effort into redefining ourselves as a Braille company. So, we alluded to a new product. So here's our foreshadowing. At the summer shows this year at ACB and NFB, we unveiled a prototype of a new device called the QBraille XL. So capital Q, no space, capital B, and then, the Braille XL. So what's in a name? QBraille is a combination of QWERTY and Braille, sort of a unique hybrid keyboard, which is the interface of a Braille device. So what we've got several different Braille displays out there. It's a very competitive category, and all the Braille displays have some form of a Braille keyboard. In some cases, no Braille keys, they're just output devices. But, the typical display is Braille input keys and, 40 cells of Braille or 32 cells of Braille, or in some cases 20. I mean, pick your number. Some method of navigating, cursor routers, compatibility with your usual suspects, your screen readers, your JAWS, your NVDA, your Mac OS, et cetera, et cetera. And they all, more or less, do the same things. Some are USB only, some have Bluetooth, some are multi-channel. Over the years, there's been kind of an evolution where, Braille displays take on some basic apps, because, the industry for, years has been predicting the death of the classic note taker and saying, well, it's all going to be replaced by Braille displays. Of course, what we see is that, people set out on that path to give up that classic, standalone note taker environment where you're basically, it's an alternative or a replacement for a laptop because you have your full word processor and email and internet browsing and media players and all those things. But when people sort of cut the ties with that note taker and got a Braille display and figured they could do everything with the mainstream device that they were connecting that display to, be it a smartphone, be it a laptop, a tablet, they nevertheless started to say, well, wouldn't it be nice if I could take a note even when I'm not connected to a peripheral device? When I'm commuting, it would be nice to be able to jot my thoughts down or read a book or skim my notes in preparation for the meeting I'm going to, that kind of thing. So manufacturers like HIMS tried to respond, and one of our early offerings was the Braille Edge, where we had a 40-cell display that had Bluetooth and USB connectivity, but also offered not a full note taker, menu, but a limited simple notepad, a calculator, a scheduler, so forth. But, all the displays, whether they had onboard apps or were simply output devices, another sort of feature that the market and customers required basically was not just text input, but, command and control. So this idea was your display had to be capable of fully controlling your computer or your smartphone. So all these, displays came up with a complex sequence of Braille key equivalents to a command structure. Let's for purposes of this discussion right now, let's talk about Windows. So there are a set of Windows keyboard commands, and we'll say JAWS keyboard commands. So if you want to close a document, for example, the command would be Alt F4. If you want a links list, insert F7 or JAWS key plus insert plus F7, something like that. So if you check the manual for any of these displays, you'll find a table of these Braille key equivalents, and you'll see that many of them are multi-step. So you may have to do 2 or more steps to execute the equivalent of a Windows command. They're not ergonomic. We joke about you kind of have to stand on one foot and twist your fingers in a certain way, and then bring your nose in to help you execute the command. What I found in years of selling multiple different displays, because for the different companies, is that very few people would actually use those commands because they were A, hard to remember, and B, not comfortable to execute. So they had to be there because people would not want to buy a display where you couldn't fully control your computer if there was another one available that could. But the reality was, most people, if they were going to, do those commands, they would reach over to a separate QWERTY keyboard and just do the commands, the Windows commands or the JAWS or screen reader commands that they were already familiar with, because they didn't have to translate anything or memorize anything. But, and then maybe like 1 in 10, I'll say, if I'm being generous, might actually memorize and use those sequences. So, our concept behind QBraille is that in addition to being this, input-output device and, having some standalone functionality, we offered a keyboard concept that had never been done before. So if you imagine a QWERTY keyboard with, your 12 function keys along the top row where you would expect them to be, your escape key at the upper left, your 6-pack of insert, delete, home, end, page up, page down. Over on the right, rear corner where you'd expect it to be, your cursor crossed with your up, down, left, right arrows on the front kind of right area where you'd expect it to be. And then your Windows modifier keys like Control, Function, Windows Alt, Spacebar, Alt, Applications, Control, everything where you would expect it to be. Then remove the letters and numbers from within that perimeter and put in an ergonomic Braille keypad. So now what you have is Braille input and QWERTY command and control. So kind of the best of both worlds concept. So,
right.
If you're a Braille user, typically you're comfortable, that would be your preferred medium. You can connect your QBraille to your PC, your Mac, smartphone. Incidentally, it will connect with 6 different Bluetooth devices and 1 USB.
Right.
But basically, you're doing your Braille, mainly for text input, and then when it comes time to do that Alt F4 or other type commands, you've got your Alt key right where it should be next to the space bar. You've got your F4 right where it should be. Even with its nice tactile marking, we've marked the F4, F8, and F12 keys. They're grouped in sets of 4. I mean, exactly like you would expect. Yeah. I mean, it's been, very, validating as users have come up and explored the QBraille prototype for the first time. And, the first reaction, sometimes will be, oh, well, there's a lot of buttons. And then you say, but what do they do? Do they seem familiar? And then they kind of say, oh, that looks like, function keys. Oh, well, these look like arrow keys. Like, oh, and then it's like the light goes on. It's like, oh, so, I don't have to, keep a separate keyboard, so I can, just use the command. So, from a user standpoint and, even a training standpoint, I mean, imagine all the people that are teaching, like say, JAWS and Braille access and things like that. They can use, the one set of commands, and it will, apply to both.
So does it surprise you then that it's because really when you look at it, it kind of just basically looks like you've taken a conventional QWERTY keyboard, removed the letter keys, and put the Braille inputs there, and left the function and everything around it. From a layman's point of view, you look at this and go, wow, this is a pretty simplistic idea. Does it surprise you that it took somebody this long to actually think of this?
Well, when we unboxed it, we got one in here for beta testing a few weeks back, and the first time I unboxed it, I looked at it and I went, this makes so much sense. I can't believe that nobody's done this before.
Well, yes and no. It does seem like one of those, should have had a V8 kind of moments. And literally, many people have said that, like, wow, why hasn't anybody done this before? And I have to say, one of my highlights of, and I don't remember if it was the ACB, it probably was the ACB conference, it might have been NFB, but after some of the crowd, died down the first day, it was like the second day, Gilles Pepin from Humanware came by the booth and checked out the QBraille. And, I'm standing there next to him and he's like, wow, that's a good idea. So that was a real highlight for me. But I have to say that, as it does seem very simple, and the thing that really sets it apart, you basically can say that in 30 seconds. It's Braille input with QWERTY command and control.
Well, yeah, because it seems to me it's a design that makes so much sense that it would be ridiculous for any designs going forward to not include this, because you guys have managed to create this sort of new design that can fit everything in.
Well, and Damien, before you go on, I do want us to touch on one point that I think is very important with the QBraille, and that is the fact that it does have the 40-cell Braille display, but can you also talk about the hybrid mode and how you can switch between modes? Because I think that's really what sets us apart from a Braille display.
So, the basic, the concept, the Braille input and QWERTY control really is hybrid mode. And for the most part, that's how people are going to use this. But how do we accomplish that combination? So that's where the other two modes come in. And so, because there's sort of hybrid mode, is a combination of two modes, we leave the separate modes available because, who knows how people, may want to use it, and there could be some different use cases and things like that. But so Braille mode is basically what all Braille displays out there on the market, are offering. You've got your Braille keys for input. You've got your communication with the screen reader. You have to have the screen reader sending information to the display, and that information is depicted, on the 40 cells of Braille. You have contracted Braille output or uncontracted Braille output, but again, you do require a screen reader to drive that information to the display. Keyboard mode is really is just that. You connect to a PC or a Mac or a smartphone, and in keyboard mode, you don't actually need a screen reader, but it's really input only, and your peripheral device perceives the QBraille exactly as a QWERTY keyboard. So the neat thing about that is that our Braille translation happens internally in the QBraille. So if you want to do input in contracted Braille, you can do that, and it will just be perceived by the computer or device as as a keyboard. So the hybrid mode is then combining keyboard mode and Braille mode. So in that, you've got active connections for the keyboard and for the Braille display. So you've got your Braille output coming from the screen reader. You've got your keyboard input coming from the QBraille to the computer, and they're just, it's perfect parallel play, so that for the user, the experience is exactly where we started at the top of the hour, the Braille input, QWERTY command and control.
One of the things I said to Steve when we got our demo unit was, because I'm not a very strong Braille user, it married the technology together quite nicely for me, because I had, like you say, I had the QWERTY keyboard functionality, yet I still had the Braille reinforcement if I wanted to go down and proofread anything, as well as the Perkins keyboard. So, and it's not much bigger than the Braille Edge. So it's a really nice form factor and a really great marriage of the technology.
Yeah, well, that's a great segue for the the tech spec kind of geeks out there. I can rattle this off. It's 12.2 inches from end to end, so in length, 4.69 inches front to back, and 0.71 inches height. So it's thin. It's a little bit bigger than the Braille Edge, but the overall the impact is it's much more sleek and contoured, and a much more modern, professional type device. It does have a a sleek, professional form factor.
Yep, it'll fit in your laptop bag just fine.
So I want to take a few steps back and go back to where we were talking a little bit about mainstream devices and sort of the idea that a lot of people were talking about the death of note takers.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody in this room here that I'm sitting in, I think we were as guilty of that as anybody. There was a time, especially with the advent of the smartphone and all that technology coming into play where we were like, man, the days of a dedicated note-taking device could really be over.
Why do you keep looking at me when you say that?
Because you were the one that started.
You led the charge.
We were all guilty of that, and I don't know. I find it really interesting that that's definitely not the case.
We're gonna have to rename this podcast "Steve's Wrong Again."
That's not a bad idea. I like that.
Well,
No, but so what do you being somebody who's obviously in the industry? Why do you think that was, and are you surprised?
Well, I'm going to go on record of saying that, I've always been a note taker guy. And so I've always valued that, that kind of user-friendly environment and, having a device that's optimized for use by a blind user, something that, when I'm doing my work, and, writing, email, various things, I want to be comfortable. I get frustrated, a lot of times, out there on the web and, with your screen reader and your mainstream thing. It's like, you have to go there because there inevitably are some limitation with the note taker environment, something that it won't do. But then, it's kind of the Wild West, online. It's a moving target, the web standards and websites are always changing, and you're always subject to, the knowledge and competency of the designers and their commitment to accessibility, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's just not as user-friendly an experience. And people are more or less, techie, and, they have a different tolerances and comfort levels with things. So, I think it's fair to say that education, the teacher-student relationship and that education environment really is what kept the note taker alive and kept the quote unquote note taker from going the way of the handspring or the Palm Pilot. Education can be a little bit slower to respond and change, but it's enough of a market that it really kept, people buying note takers. And, all along the way, there's been this, I would say the industry has been and continues to be in a paradigm shift. For the last 10 years or more. I want to say, when I was at Freedom Scientific, we were having the, what do we do with PackMate? We built it and they didn't come. It was like there was PackMate gear and, you could theoretically, it was mainstream and you could, install third-party apps and everything, like all two of them. And, they're just like, it didn't catch on. And so at the time, it was like, well, our core business is JAWS. Laptops are getting smaller. We think that people are going to go, JAWS and a laptop and a Braille display. Well, they weren't wrong. They weren't wrong. And, they sold a lot of Braille displays, over the years. So, they didn't suffer or lose by making that decision, but, Humanware and HIMS, over the years continued to survive and, even thrive and continue to sell those note takers. So yes, there's so many different consumer choices now. For both blind and sighted people, the iPhones, the Android phones, the tablets, the laptops, Mac versus Windows is a much more viable choice than it ever was before. And note takers are kind of, in that conversation as well. So in a sense, there is no one size fits all for any segment of the market, be you blind or sighted. So what that is kind of telling me is that, so much more is happening, online in the cloud. And, the device that you choose, really does become about personal choice and optimizing, what is comfortable and efficient and productive for you as a user, whoever you are, blind, sighted, whatever, limitations or enhancements, you may bring to the party. But then but there are other demands that we didn't have or even were aware of 20 years ago. So it's all about connectivity and interoperability with other devices and other systems. And so that's, where I suddenly now see kind of a renewed and revitalized place for the note taker. I think that the note taker, and I'm biased here, but I think that the Braille Sense Polaris, really is this device that's kind of come full circle and stands in position to become kind of a crossover device, that to change and expand the way people, have thought about note takers, that where I was starting to allude to is that it's a combination of a classic note taker kind of blind optimized environment with a mainstream kind of screen reader access to the cloud experience. So two distinct user experiences or user profiles merged in one device.
So where can people find you guys online? If anyone who's interested in getting more information about either the Polaris or the QBraille?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is www.hims-inc.com. That's HIM as in Mary, S as in Sam, -INC like incorporated.com. So www.hims-inc.com. Our toll-free number is 888-520-4467. That's 888-520-4467. I think those are the various digits. I would be remiss in not sharing that we will also, at the end of this week or early next week, be offering a major new firmware for the Polaris, and which we're introducing advanced math features, kind of math graphing and so forth. So we're very committed to STEM and education, and so that's been a big thing that we've been working on in recent months. So look for that in the near future as well.
Thanks so much for joining us, Damien. We much appreciate taking some time out of your afternoon and chatting with us about HIMS and about the QBraille.
Well, Rob, Steve, Ryan, thanks to all of you. I had a wonderful time. I really enjoyed our conversation.
So Ryan, you had a chance to play with the QBraille.
I did.
In your hand. So what's your take on it?
I think it's fabulous. If I had the money, I would consider purchasing one.
Really?
Yeah. Like, one of the big arguments he made is that, if you're using a laptop or an external USB QWERTY keyboard and a USB or Bluetooth Braille display, you're moving your hands from the Braille display back to the QWERTY keyboard, back and forth all the time. This one keyboard replaces both those devices.
Sure. I could see that.
I can just Alt F4 to close an application, or I can launch Windows, the start menu, type right on the Braille keyboard, or type right on the QBraille, Google Chrome or Word or whatever I want to open it. And it's just the one device, and it's fabulous.
Yeah, and it really occurs to me that this is probably the first Braille display that really, aside from ones that had QWERTY keyboards integrated onto them, like some of the European ones, but it's really one of the only ones that you could walk away from the computer altogether with and just completely operate the computer through the display.
Yep.
Whereas other ones, you just couldn't do that because you'd have to be near the keyboard to get to certain functions.
Right. Yeah. No, this has all the Windows commands. It works with JAWS, NVDA, system access.
So do you think that
Dolphin.
The other manufacturers are going to take a look at this and go, So
I wouldn't surprise me that at CSUN in March, HIMS releases a prototype.
Yeah, I'd be shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a
it's just a good idea.
Absolutely.
it's such a great idea, and they're first to market with it. I don't see any designs going forward that wouldn't incorporate or at least have a model that incorporates this design.
Yeah, no, it's great. Loved it.
So, well, I mean, hopefully they get the advantage of being first to market with it, and we'll see how they do. I'm sure it's an exciting time over there at HIMS.
Well, and I believe they're still taking pre-orders, aren't they, Steve?
Yeah, I believe they are.
Yeah. And so are we.
Plug. Hey, Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Where can people find us?
They can find us online at atbanter.com.
They can also drop us an email, atbanterpodcast@gmail.com.
And what about Canadian Assistive Technology?
What about it? What about it, huh?
You tell us all about it.
What about it?
You're up.
Well, Canadian Assistive Technology is simply the very best assistive technology company in the entire planet. At least Canada. And we can be reached at www.canastech.com. And we can also be found online on Facebook and Twitter. And you can email us at sales@canastech.com.
No, you can't. What?
Yeah.
No,
you
you can't.
Yeah, you sure can.
What?
Yeah.
Sales@canast. Who does that go to?
I think that website's been our website. That email's been our website for a long time.
It's never been on our website.
Goes to me.
I think
It's not on our website.
Of course, you can just, get around that by going
now we're just
Steve
gonna
at canastech.com.
Argue
We're gonna
amongst
send-
ourselves.
Click. This is me. This is me writing an email. This is to sales at
This is-
canastech.com.
Oh, maybe you want to add it to the website.
Well,
Hi there, sexy. Compose email. You are awesome. Send.
this is what happens when you schedule a podcast for the afternoon. It gets very squirrely.
Oh, look, it arrived in my inbox.
It
look
did
at
there
that,
too.
eh?
Huh?
How about
Well,
that?
damn it. Well, dude, you learn something new every day.
Hey, according to this, I'm awesome.
Fake news.
I almost didn't read it because it came in with "Hi there, sexy," which is what I get a lot on my email. Yeah.
Hey, guess what? I just saw on my phone.
What?
Amazon plans to release at least 8 new Alexa-powered devices, including a microwave, an amplifier, and an in-car gadget.
Doesn't surprise me.
How about that?
An Alexa microwave.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, that's a good idea. Although, what's an in-car gadget? I don't know if that's a good idea.
I think that's their
Need
way of
less
saying,
distraction.
"Shh, it's a secret."
That'll be probably no different than, you talking to Apple CarPlay, using Cortana or something to say,
Sure.
Play whatever on Spotify or, read my email to me. We'll probably find out more at CES.
Yeah, probably. But that's interesting. Yeah, intelligent, smart appliances is probably going to be the next phase. Be talking to everything.
Groovy.
Yep. People can hack into your microwave.
Oh, you and your hacking.
Your microwave, you'll hear laughter in the evening coming from your microwave.
Oh boy.
You'll be sending your time codes, your recipes to unsuspecting people.
Yeah, I don't want my microwave to be intelligent. The microwave could really screw with you a long way.
Sure it could.
Well, I think about how many times Google just kicks on accidentally for random things. Like sometimes it'll kick on while I'm playing the radio. So do you really want that risk with your microwave? You know, all of a sudden your microwave starts whirring away because you walk past and you said, "Oh, I'm 20 minutes late. 20 minutes on high. Sure, absolutely." Boom. Next thing you know, your house is burning down. You've mutated the rabbit into a were-rabbit.
Chaos Technical Services is also a thing with run by Mr. Rick Chant, who
Surly gentleman extraordinaire.
repairs any type of assistive technology. Good buddy of ours. You can find him at www.chaostechnicalservices.com.
Get your stuff fixed.
And
Get it out of that back closet. Listed on Canas Tech's gently used equipment website.
There you
oh
go.
man, my head is foggy after all that. I feel, of course, I spent my entire morning doing emails, so that's probably didn't help my mindset at all either.
Probably not.
But whatever. BC's done.
Done like dinner.
Yeah. Speaking of dinner, let's get out of here.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for listening in again this week. We will see everybody next week.
Ciao. This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canastech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com. Music provided by bensound.com.
Whoa, look at that. Master of the one take.